players directly influencing the game balance. That is the video we are watching today by none other than, I will call it the Golden Child, but I guess he's like a grown man at this point, right? The Golden Man, Sajam, sponsored by Chipotle, constantly everywhere you see within the Capcom scene, within the FGC, right? Very notable individual today we are reacting to their video. Players directly influencing the game balance, of course. Their video will be in the description down below, so go support their video. I'm not here trying to rip stuff. Sajam, listen, man, I'm just a small guy. Let me get some of the drips. But, of course, if you like this video, you want to see more of it, let me know in the comments down below. Very excited to get into it. We are close also to 2,000 subscribers. Not trying to be a shill for myself, but hey, if somebody has to do it, it has to be me. Close to 2,000 subscribers. So if you watch this video, please hit that subscribe button. It'd be so sick to hit 2,000 before 2025, and then maybe we'll hit 10,000 before 2026. But let's get into it. Very exciting.
Let's talk about the good.
Let's talk about
I
it.
can tell you some stories and give you some impressions and thoughts from someone who's dealt with this before. Broski posted this after the Strive balance patch came out, and like
Broski, by the way, if you don't know who Broski is, a very good fighting game player. Understands games at a very technical level. Puts out a lot of good details on characters, and very known for his character specialist on like Oro, currently on Aki when JP first came out, playing a lot of tech stuff. So Broski, very reliable person with pretty straightforward opinions.
People have had opinions about balance for games and said, I've been saying this for years now, but in the wake of several truly awful balance patches for multiple fighting games, it is crazy to me that more devs don't hire players as consultants, something which is commonplace in basically every other esport. Now, I will also say, before Sajab, before you say, let me say, Sajab, you relax a little bit. Let me take the reins on this. Fighting games are a very, how do you say, specific genre. It's a one-on-one. There's not much stopping you from losing versus yourself. Now, other games are one-on-one, like StarCraft is a one-on-one. Of course, it can be like a two-on-two, but a lot of other esports on the scene are all team-based games, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of balancing that goes into some of these other games to where, if you play Valorant, you want this agent to be a little bit balanced, but of course you have to deal with 4 other agents. So in retrospect, you would need, I think it's a 5v5 in Valorant. You would need 5 agents to be balanced because there's always going to be 5 agents on each team. Fighting games, there's one character. A person can play one character. Of course, they can play a secondary character. But when it comes down to this, if you hire people as consultants, the thing that will get skewed is fighting games. In every game, there's going to be a best. There's going to be a character that does the most damage. There's going to be a character that has the best frame advantage. There's going to be a character that has the best mix-up. There's going to be a character that has the fastest drive rush in Street Fighter 6, for instance. These are all things you need to balance. Every character can't be the same. So if you hire, normal players, sure, they'll be like, oh, well, do this, do that, do this. But certain characters are supposed to exceed in some things and then decede in other things. And I think a lot of people would only want buffs for said characters. They would only buff Marissa, only buff Manon. But you need these characters to have weak points. Every character can't be good, in my opinion. That's what I think. Okay, Sajam, my bad. What are you going to say? First and foremost, this is actually not true. I think basically every fighting game hires consultants of some kind. Former players working on the balance or working stuff like that, right? Washige going and working on Street Fighter 5, and also they've had Seth Killian and Combo Fiend going into Capcom. Katano for Strive, right, is a good example. I
mean, if we're being honest, right, Strive should not be, no offense, Strive should not be an example, right? Did you see the latest balance patch on that game? I don't think he's kind of naming games that have people as consultants. Street Fighter 5 had a terrible start, terrible balance, right? I mean, obviously people think about Abigail and all that jazz, right? So even if we're naming people who are consulting these games still struggle with balance because Luke was still the best character at the end of Street Fighter 5 for the longest. Certain companies don't care about balance as much as maybe us consumers think they do.
Has a team whose job was to actively help balance the game. 4 people whose job it is to play the game and find disgusting, gross things and just show what's
possible if you have capable players playing it. I mean,
I respect
Cremona
that.
as
I
an
mean,
active
he's not
player
wrong.
is very good, and he's obviously
I
there.
mean, he's not wrong. If the more higher, the more stronger player you have looking at your game, the better the game should be. But remember, these people are good at the game, and this is what I don't think many people understand in the FGC. People are good at their game with the good characters, and I'll take a step back. Nobody's winning Evo with Marissa, right? Nobody's gonna win Capcom Cup with Jamie. Like these are facts. These are just facts. The better characters are going to win these bigger tournaments. Now, of course, a mid-tier can perform a little bit better if you play higher, right? I think that's what made Justin Wong such a strong character, because his Marvel vs. Capcom 3 team wasn't the best team, and he still won. That's what made him so good at the game, is that he could have not the best team in the game, but because he's so good at the game, that's why he won the game. It wasn't his character was playing the game for him. His characters had a million mix-up, all safe on block, crazy unblockables. He was just good at the game, right?
Every game basically has people like this, and active players are very often consulted and brought in. And as he mentions, I don't think any dev team is or should just like hear the person go, hey, these changes suck, you should buff my character more and nerf this character more, and then like, okay, cool, let's just
fair enough. No, there has to be a balance
to what insert top player here said about the game. Like, I think, as always, if you're the developer for the game, you should have objectives and visions and guidelines that you're following, and you should make changes in line with that. And if something is slightly out of whack or it needs to be changed one way or another, or someone gives you interesting insight or feedback about something, go ahead and make changes if it coincides.
If you have if Street Fighter 6 is supposed to be an Unga Bunga game, right, then the developers are going to keep it an Unga Bunga game, because they have already planned that, right? Because what people don't think about, not everybody, of course, when I say stuff like this, but DLC characters, right? Street Fighter 6 came out, there's going to be a meta, right? There's going to be a meta, crouching meme kick, drive rush, overheads, all this jazz. Then the DLC characters come out. The DLC characters need to also fit the already existing meta as best as they can while keeping their identity. Does that make sense? So when Elena and Mai come out later this year and next year, they have to fit Street Fighter 6. Elena can't just have a full screen unblockable high-low super that just destroys your health bar, right? She still needs to play like a Street Fighter 6 character. And however the developers want the game to go forward, right? Crouching meme kick, drive rush plus unblock overhead or safe overhead. That's what Capcom wants the game to go. They can't just be like, and Mai doesn't have a drive gauge because she's different, right? You need to stay in line. And if every character is going to be broken, then every character is going to be fucking busted, right? But you can't make 5 characters really good in a game that has 24 characters, and then we're not seeing 8 to 10 characters in the highest level of play. Because that means even people who are amazing at the game can't make these characters work at a high level because they just don't have enough to work with
the vision of the game that you have. But you shouldn't just be like, okay, this person says this is too broken, let's go and nerf it. I've obviously gone in and done stuff like this for games in the past. I went into a big test where a bunch of people got to try a version of a game that was going to come out. This is like 10 years ago. This is not 2XKO related. I can tell you a 2XKO story after though. The first thing I did was go in, and within like 30 minutes of playing, I already found something that was just like way too degenerate and good for my character. And I was like, hey, this probably can't stay this way. Just watch the way I'm playing. Like, what do you...
It's actually kind of funny because Seijan played Soul Bad Guy season 1 of Strive, and then I think he started with Luke for a little bit in season 1 of Street Fighter 6. Don't listen to, and then he also played the magic bitch in fucking Blaze Blue. Don't listen to Seijan. Seijan is a top tier player or a top tier character picker. The moment a game comes out, he will pick the best character, act like it was organic, and then be like, I don't know why people are saying this guy's pretty strong, and then he'll name like 2 bad things. And the character has like 25 good things. But I don't know. They're not that good. They're every time, dude. He will pick the best. Whenever the next new fighting game comes out, he will be playing the best character. Confirmed.
You think about this. And then
I forgot her name, dude.
The magic makes a lot of sense. I think what you're doing here is probably a little ham. So they changed it by making the thing that I was doing a little less degenerate, but it made the character more interesting. They were doing more fun stuff because of it. At the same test, there was a person who went in and refused to play their characters because they didn't want to find any changes with them and show anything too strong and get them nerfed.
That's
Some
corny.
people, when they
Corny.
gave me feedback, myself, was, hey, here's what my character is doing, which is too powerful, maybe, perhaps. What do you think about this? Other people could take angles that are extremely beneficial only to them, trying to learn all the new stuff that my character is going to have, find powerful, stupid shit, and not tell anybody what my character is capable of, so that hopefully it doesn't get nerfed and they miss it, and then it can make it through the balance patch. That literally happened. You have the examples. I'm sure you guys have all heard the stories about NRS inviting players.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's some pretty fucking, that's some pretty degenerate shit right there. I mean, back in the day, I feel like people used to not show tech, so that way when they go to tournaments, they would hit you with some crazy shit. And I feel like today, the moment there's a new high damaging combo, immediately on X, right? Immediately on Twitter, whatever you want to call it, immediately all over the place. Like, I feel like tech nowadays is very open. So even if this individual hid their shit, just so it didn't get balance patched, 2 days into the balance patch, everybody would have found out about it. And then from there, maybe they could have done like a hot fix. You never know. But hiding tech these days is, because of the internet, I feel like it's not hidden for too long.
And during the MKX and Injustice eras, where like players went in and like, first of all, recorded a bunch of footage that they weren't allowed to. There was like leaked footage from the playtests, but also not telling them about things that they found, or like trying to
the
hide
unblockable
things.
dumpster.
People would be like, oh, I found this during the test where I was supposed to help balance the game, told nobody about it, and then now that it's out, I'm gonna do it in the very first tournaments of the game and like win money. I'll give you another example. After the 2xKO Alpha Lab,
here we go, 2xKO story.
A lot of people get to give feedback about it. People's opinions were like, hey, you know what's fucked up? All the other stuff that every other character could do, and spent all of their feedback time arguing about how the characters they played were fine and how Yasuo was like incredibly broken and was doing too much, really obnoxious.
Yeah, I mean, this is classic, right? I mean, even if I were to, let's say, like, even if I was playing Street Fighter 6, I don't think any character is busted, in my opinion. I don't think any character in Street Fighter 6 is busted. I do think some characters are corny, don't get me wrong. I think Rashid and Bison and DJ, right, are some of the corniest fucking characters in Street Fighter 6, personally. Like, I think that they play the game slightly different because a lot of their stuff is, you know, it leaves them, like, safe. Like, they're doing, like, you know, Bison Scissors when that motherfucker first came out, right? A -5 move, but it pushes them fucking a third of the screen away. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to punish this move that's shipping my drive gauge, right? DJ, high-low fucking mix. They're fucking safe on block. Like, I have to DI, but if I DI, he does the fake one. Then I'm fucking getting, like, you know, like, there's a lot of these characters, I believe, make you guess. And if you guess wrong, and just by blocking right, which is guessing wrong against these moves, is just blocking and not perfect pairing or DIing them. If you block, you're losing drive gauge, and then they're safe. So, you know, it's not like neutral's like resetting too much. They're just going to be holding down back. But that's not busted, right? I mean, at the end of the day, there's always system mechanics to beat every character. You can perfect parry every normal, and you can DI majority of supers in this game, right? So at the end of the day, no matter how busted a character is, the system mechanics is still the strongest part of Street Fighter 6, right? So there's nothing too busted. Like, no character really, I guess maybe Marissa's charge Gladius beats DI, but I mean, it loses the perfect parry, right? So it's always something that the game is still allowing you to beat.
And like, the game couldn't exist with Yasuo being that way. It turned out Yasuo was not even that crazy after people played the game.
Yeah, Yasuo was a cool character.
You know?
Slow as fuck.
It's often very easy to
slow as fuck.
only view the game in the lens of like, dude, what my opponents are doing to me is so gross. Well, the stuff I'm doing, it's pretty, like, there's counterplay.
I'm an honest
ad player, dude. Doing is so
I'm playing
gross
honest
and bad,
footsies.
like, it needs to go. So Keats is a developer. You guys know he worked on Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct got a lot of feedback from players. They got a lot of feedback from places all over the place. Player consultants almost never help. Very few of them can put aside self-interest enough to give effective feedback, and often their asks are extremely self-serving.
Of course.
It can work, and he's used them, but requires the right player choices and a confident, strong
People are inherently selfish, right? I mean, realistically, I'm putting out this video, right, because I want views from a Stage Jam video. Does that make sense? Like, no matter what happens, like, you would always want something to to benefit you, no matter what it is, right? If you want money, you would want, like you would want more money. If you're gonna play a fighting game and devote your life to the fighting game, you want the character you play to be better. Like it's just human shit. So that's why I think companies have to do what the fuck they're doing, stay unbiased and continue. Because of course, if I were to go into Street Fighter 6, I'd be like, yeah, give fucking Ed an overhead. The only change I would make to Ed, maybe they can nerf him, give Ed an overhead, and then I'll be like, okay, well, character is now balanced in my opinion. One fucking like 3 characters in the game that doesn't have an overhead is fucking Ed. That's so weird. Why the fuck is everybody else getting an overhead? I want high-low mix. But yeah, I mean that's of course, right? I would go in and be like, give Ed an overhead. But Capcom would be like, no, if he had an overhead, he would be too fucking good. Ed would be too good if he had an overhead. And I would go like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Character's really good. If he had an overhead, he would be even fucking better.
Many teams try to use statistics and math to guide balance, and this is also a mistake. This is all his opinion about it, by the way. Balance isn't factual, it's emotional. Without a leader that understands the games, the players, the psychology of all, it's blind darts. The point he's making here basically is you can't just balance the game by like trying to make all characters the same power level. You have to understand how people interact with these characters in the game, how they interact with each other, how people feel fighting against these characters, which characters feel better or worse to be certain kinds of ways, like how it makes you feel, right? There's more than just the raw data of it. Good balance has a lot more in common with musical composition than it does AP statistics. It requires harmonious choices, purposeful imbalance of volume and frequency, and tempo to achieve the desired emotional effect. I don't believe most players see competitive balance this way, and I'm sure most game devs responsible for game balance don't see it this way, and I feel this is why we see so many big misses in the game balance space. Manipulate emotion, not numbers. Lead, don't follow. And he says, by the way, I met and spoke with hundreds of competitive KI players. Of them, I'd trust exactly two to give me good big picture feedback, and only about 10 more to give me narrow but useful, rational feedback about balance. I promise every time it ever happens. I remember, there's location tests for Ultra Street Fighter 4. Every single person.
That's so crazy. Hundreds of players. Only he trusts 2 of them, and maybe 10. Right, maybe 10 more gave useful shit. This is so true. If you look at Twitter, everybody wants this change, but they're never going to talk about their character. It's just what it is. And so 2 people, maybe these guys are like, hey, I play fucking Cinder, right? Cinder's in KI. I play Cinder. This shit's broken on Cinder. If you made it this way, it would still be useful, but it would have a drawback. And I think that's what a lot of fighting game developers are not leaning towards is drawbacks, right? I think a lot of characters in Street Fighter 6 specifically, and maybe a little bit even in Mortal Kombat, and possibly Tekken. I'm not the biggest Tekken player, but I'm sure the top tiers in Tekken get away with shit that bottom tiers just cannot. They just have safe block strings, right? That just do 1,000,000 damage if it lands. You're like, well, why the fuck does this guy have a safe block string? But if it lands, it does 1,000,000 damage. What the fuck? Of course, you're just going to constantly just throw that shit out, right? I think that's what, I think that's what the consensus is going to be when it comes to fighting games, but it's so weird. Balancing is always a finicky thing, because if you change one thing about a character, they can become the worst character in the game. You change one thing about a character, now they're the best character in the entire game. It's always finicky. It's always finicky.
Tried their character and said, like, this is bullshit. Why does insert X character here get this and my character only got this? And, like, some of the characters that they were like, dude, why is my character only getting this? That character ended up being, like, top 5 at the end of the game. They were supposed to get feedback for this, and I remember people saying, hey guys, don't we all agree that this character is like so crazy? We should all write in the same feedback so that hopefully they rallied through feedback to like get characters
power
changed.
Numbers.
This is why my approach to trying to give useful feedback has always been to look at what my characters are capable of that seem incorrect. A lot of the feedback that I gave, as an example for 2XKO,
what'd you say?
The characters I played, I gave feedback about all of them about why they were too belligerent. I was like, Echo, the problem with that character is he's supposed to be like a mixed character. They can be tricky and has like fun mix, but he's just god at being belligerent, right? Like he basically sends it at you with way too many powerful tools.
Yeah, this is also another thing when it comes to archetypes, right? The Guile was very good in the beginning of Street Fighter 6 because, I mean, especially during the beta, was because he can build a shit ton of meter, use drive gauge properly, and, level 3 you for a shit ton of damage, but yet he's a zoner character, right? I mean, right now, Dawson has a little bit of buffs when it comes to his rush down with the driver's heavy kick, but you want, and then, I mean, obviously JP was supposed to be a long-range zoner character, and then he's mixing you up 15 times in the corner, landing combos, juggling you constantly because his juggle limit is higher than other characters, right? So then now you have characters like Marissa who are supposed to be like the high damaging characters, but yet now they're high damage, sure, but they're not Bison's high damage or Kuma's high damage. You know, and these characters just do things better than Marissa, right? So archetypes is, you know, it's very tough, right? You want a character to be the archetype, but when other characters are their archetype and another archetype, it's like what happened to Pokemon, dude. Why would I have a fire when I can have like a fire steel, and then now I'm not weak or not? That was a bad example. I'm sorry. I thought fire steel maybe they wouldn't be as weak to fire. Was that what I'm trying to go for? Because steel is weak to fire, but if they're a fire type, they won't take as much fire damage. Was that right or wrong? Let me know in the comments.
So my feedback about my own
talk about shit I don't know.
Character was he's too belligerent and powerful. ArroyoYo is one of my most played characters. Probably the weakest character in that build, ? My feedback for her was, I think you need to nerf her Rekka. The first hit of her Rekka was a counter hit launch on air or grounded hit, and it's 0 on block, and you could just Rekka into like, it's just so belligerent.
Oh, that's not good.
Because I think she may be overall, and maybe I'm not even right about that, right? I think that the character is just a little too belligerent in that end. I wish some of the power was somewhere else, because so much of the character felt like dash Rekka, dash Rekka, dash Rekka.
Damn,
right?
that's not good.
I started by looking at my own stuff and thinking, what is too powerful about what my character is doing, what they're doing in relation to the system, and then you work your way outward afterwards. It's really difficult to give like a big picture view of what this is all like, right? So, you know, players do help. They do get involved in balance changes, and they should. I think it's important because they're capable of playing the game at the highest level, and so you get the characters in their hands to see what's happening and to see what the characters are doing and see how they feel about it, and that can be very useful feedback, and some of them are capable of giving you smart suggestions and changes. A player's job is to play. It's not to balance a fighting game. Their job is not to be a designer who looks over all this and makes decisions that make the most sense, right? You don't just want feedback from the highest possible level of play. You want player feedback from players.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is very important. Once again, like, I constantly make content for the, you know, the casual audience, right? The casual audience is the biggest part of the FGC, as much as maybe some top players, you know, are not used to that when it comes to game balance. You want you want all millions of people who are playing Street Fighter to have fun with the character that they want to play. So that's why balance is important. So, and based off of Street Fighter 6, some characters have the coolest aesthetics. Jamie looked very cool, right? When he got announced, obviously, Manon Marissa looked very cool when they like got announced. Who else is new? You know, Aki originally, you know, now she's good, but when she first got announced, people were like excited for Aki. Like, you get like these new characters, and then they're just like lackluster. Everybody's still just playing Street Fighter 5 characters, right? When you think about it, you have Kami, Akuma, and Ken, you know, Ryu. Like, you still have these older, like, none of the newer characters are really shining as much as I would hope for. So Bison, obviously. I feel like none of the new characters are doing good.
And then weaker players, and then brand new players. You want feedback from everybody to see how they're feeling about the game, because the best players in the world are such a small percentile of the people playing your video game. You also need designers and developers to shape the opinions of these players from, I'm doing cool stuff and the things I'm doing are honest and sick, that everybody else is doing nasty shit to me and needs to be nerfed, to like actually take that away and then be like, okay, what actually is powerful? What is actually in line with what we want?
Crouching medium kick drive rush is powerful.
Discussion on both sides. It can't just be like, fuck players, am I right, gamers? Anyway, let's make a video game. Like, who else is it for, right?
It's for the people.
To do is to know which parts of feedback are useful to you and which parts of feedback are not. And you only know that if you're a developer who has a strong idea about what you want your game to be, and you're looking for feedback on what is not fitting in the mold of what you want your game to be like. My job is to do the same thing as a commentator. Especially at SageM, right? SageM is a commentator and very respected content creator within the scene. So if SageM says like, hey, this is kind of buffed, or this is kind of bad, this is kind of good, I think a lot more people are gonna automatically agree with SageM, not because maybe they've done their own research, right? And this is what happens when you become big in the space, but because they trust his opinion so much. So if SageM says, I think Akuma is not that strong because of so and so, many people might be like, dude, are you fucking smoking crack? But there's gonna be people who immediately go, oh yeah, SageM said this, right? So it's Akuma's not that good. I'll just DP his fireballs and jump back when he does demon flip, right? It's like, of course, those are the options, right? And you should fucking DI every, fireball in the game and perfect parry every fireball in the game. But the odds of people doing this
consistently is, you know, what makes a character strong or not. So say Jam, if he says like, oh, this character Marissa's actually fucking broken, people will be like, whoa, let me get Marissa another shot. And then they get bodied by a bison.
In terms of like what people engage with and how they engage with it and what they like and what they don't like. And reading through or recognizing what people say, filtering out their words to intent, and then getting what feedback makes sense and making changes or adjustments based on that, or like staying the course, is a really common thing that you have to do. When we do the slam, right? So many people would come in and suggest changes to the format or changes to the way we do things or changes to, you know, something about it.
Not your project, brother.
Almost every single time we had already considered the thing that they're talking about, and we decided that it would make it worse. Like, it's a learned skill of like, you have an idea about what you want things to be. It's not just like I stumbled on a random format and thought that'll do, and then no more thought.
Street Fighter 6 is a game that's been in development for probably years. Jam Slam is a project that maybe was in development for like a year, maybe like half a year, or maybe a little bit more. I would hope so. I would hope that he took some time to make this all work out. Obviously, you gotta get the coaches and the players, and the format makes sense. Everybody enjoyed the format. I mean, it'll be, and then you get fucking Timmy Hot Dog for 2069 XX, and he's like, "Hey, have you thought about just having everybody play 1-1 right away, so that way the tournament can finish before I have to go to sleep?" You know, like, no, people have thought it out. They made a way. The ones who need to work on it is the fucking Super Premier Japan. Why are we rocking an ad after every fight? That's something that was not thought out. Or maybe they're like, we want that revenue money. We want that ad revenue. Because that shit was terrible. That shit was bad.
You know, that shit was bad. A lot of time and effort into why we do it this way, right? Balancing League of Legends has to be like the hardest, worst job on the planet.
Dude, that's why I said, dude, you need 5 people.
Design goals and vision for how
that's not true, because in League of Legends ranked, you would need 10 legends, because there's always going to be better legends, so you would need 10 legends that are balanced, but then you would want every legend to be balanced. That way there's not only 10 legends getting balanced, because realistically they're going to be banning, I think it's 5. Smite, I'm a Smite gamer. Smite, it's 5 on each team, so you would need 10 bans, and then 10 legends, right, gods, that are also equally as good as those 10 bans. When you have a pool of over 100 legends, you want everybody to pick the legend that they want, because that legend should be viable, right? It is tough, dude. It is tough. You need 20 legends right away that are good, so people have a good character to play if they want to play a good character, right? And then you need the other, 100 legends plus to just be good enough to where people who love these characters and their designs and their skills are able to play those characters and not feel like they're holding back the team. Dude, I'm happy I'll never have to balance a fucking game in my life. That shit sounds stressful.
Balance the game.
And no matter what you do, people are going to be mad.
Fucking characters.
No matter what you do.
The system of the game has so many things that interact with it. There's items that change the characters. There's the summoners. There's everything. And it patches every 2 weeks. So when you're balance patching the game, you must understand your changes are not based on what's happening live. You are patching ahead. They mentioned this for like TFT a lot, where they are like, okay, we shipped a patch, and at the time we needed buffs for this trait because no one was playing in it. It wasn't very good. And by the time 2 weeks later the patch hit, that trait was like the best thing in the game. So then you see the patch notes and you're like, why are they buffing the best thing in the game? And you're like, well, we submitted this patch a week and a half ago. This thing was not very good then. So,
and then people figured it out. Now it's good.
If I just signed you up for the job, you could just balance 170. What does it mean to balance 170 characters? Balance is
170 in League? Oh, fuck, dude. Oh, dude. And you got to make all 170 viable, realistically. Of course, once again, there's going to be a better character. But you're making 100 and... Bro, imagine if Street Fighter 6 had 170 characters. Holy shit, dude. You would see like 8. You would see like 8. You would forget like 60 of them were even in the fucking game. You're like, oh yeah, C Viper's in this game, because there's that one C Viper main who playing them is like their whole personality. Like, oh yeah, dude, C Viper, that's so fucking crazy. I mean, currently that's what Street Fighter 6 is like now. I played ranked, all I see is fucking Akumas, Camis, Juries, DJ. Oh my, don't even get started. Don't even get me started.
Oh, make all the characters similar in power level. It's also like which characters make more sense to be certain types of power level, doing the things that they're doing, and which moves can be this strong or not this strong and feel this way or not be this way. Like, there's so many knobs to tweak to make things
Too
feel
many. There's
correct.
too many.
As Keith's mentioned, you're not just tuning numbers.
4
it's,
abilities
making
on
sure
each
everything feels
legend,
right
and then you
to
got
lots of
movement
different
probably
people.
as well,
Comparison got patches,
defenses.
monthly. So characters just got dramatically changed month over month for a while there in season 2. They would release characters and they'd be like, well, turns out this character had an infinite, or turns out this character did way too much damage, or this move is stupid. So our bad, we'll change that. There was just stuff like that.
They didn't do that shit with fucking Bison's bomb on EX fucking Psycho Crusher, tell you that much. OD Psycho Crusher. They did not fucking change that. They said, yep, that shit is, yep, if he has 3 bars, and you get hit with OD fucking Psycho Crusher, there goes like 70% of your HP, brother, on the easiest fucking combo.
Constantly, but the game was ever changing. Unlike something like Tekken, patched the game like once every month for a while. They were just cranking out patches.
And Dragunov is still top tier, people say?
You didn't have a lot of communication or understanding about what they were looking for or what they were tuning for. Whereas in KI's case, you had a lot more discussion about, this is what we're trying to do. This is like an overshot or undershot or whatever, and we're making a change. A downside to a game that changes constantly, there's a lot of feeling of like, you should just swap to the most powerful thing today. You know, you might as well just play the really insane thing right now, and then when it gets nerfed in 2 weeks, play the next insane thing.
The next big thing, dude. That's what
Sajam
Sajam does. Don't listen to him. That's what he does. I'm joking.
And Akuma are not getting shot yet in Street Fighter is because so many of the players are playing their World Warrior and CPT qualifiers right now. So shooting these characters now just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? You don't want to hit a balance. That's like the tough part too, right? With 1 million on the line, you can't really hit too many balances during that, right? Because there's $1 million on. Like, people are going to dedicate their time to playing Akuma because, why the fuck wouldn't you? And to win $1 million, that right before the $1 million tournament, you then nerf Akuma, and then now these people who have only played good Akuma are now gonna go to this tournament, fucking lose because Akuma is balanced. Little jokes, maybe a little truth in those statements, but right, you can't change the characters with $1 million on the line. Less money on the line, change the fucking characters. It'd be like that. You lost $5,000. $1 million online, sorry, gotta deal with them. You got to. Until maybe the Elena patch, dude. Who knows? But right now, you just gotta deal with these characters.
Qualifiers and all the time people put into the characters.
I hate Capcom Cup.
Right before the finals. There's stability in this kind of a thing, which I think some people value, but there's also just like, yeah, there's probably a fine line between the two that you can land on. I imagine balancing any competitive game is very, very difficult.
Very difficult, man. I'm glad I don't have to.
Whose job it is. I'm happy it's not my job.
Dude. Me and Sajam saying the same thing, man. I feel like me and Sajam could have like a nice conversation. Not like too crazy. It's like a nice casual conversation, like the DMV. We're both just waiting. He's watching like some fucking Street Fighter shit. I'm like, oh, yo, dude, is that Street Fighter 6? He's like, you play? I'm like, brother, 1, I beat your Luke. Season 1. Of course I remember that. I'm a fucking psychopath. 2, I don't even own a car. I just followed you to DMV. I'm joking. 3, dude, I'm like semi-legend Ed, man. I'm kind of good at the game. But, of course, if you like the video, if you like Sajam, if you like Capcom, if you like KI, if you like NRS, if you like fighting games, if you like air, if you like water, if you like food, make sure to subscribe and comment down below and leave a like. Really helps the channel. Once again, I'm trying to hit 2,000 subs before 2025. Dude, please, help me. You can make a change. You can make a change. And I'll see y'all again next time. See ya.